What are we talking about? Practice?
Wow, winning.
MMA UK Podcast. MMA UK Podcast. Steve Brigg, John Boy McElroy.
Every Sunday.
Sunday.
Hello and welcome to another edition of Martial Arts Chat here on MMA UK Podcast. And this week we'll be talking some more UFC 205 as well as answering your fan questions. And joining us later on the panel we'll be speaking to Kevin Jones of The Main Event and Gilberto Sanchez of MMA Latest. But at this time, let me bring in my man with the plan, Steve Brigg. Steve, we've got some more prize giveaways for some lucky winners. What have we got this week, sir?
Well, last week with our Stuart Austin giveaway, the winner of that was none other than a Mr. Nev Witter. Again, we'll message you on Facebook and let you know what the deal with that is. But thank you everyone for entering. So yeah, Nev, you win some signed Stuart Austin goodies this week.
Congratulations, Nev. We want to know though, is Nev short for Neville?
Yes,
that's the most important thing.
This.
Gary and Phil Neville's father, I believe, is called Neville. Just
Neville.
I'm not going to lie, Nev. That's one of the reasons why that was the overwhelming reason why I picked you. That's why you had my vote, mate.
He's probably going to unlike us now, isn't he, for picking on his name?
Probably going to receive some hate now. Why did you not pick me? I've got an interesting name. I've got a terrible name. My name is the toilet in America. I'm just going to the John. We could probably
trying to figure out McElroy. What's that got to do with the toilet?
Well, you'd be surprised. Up here in Scotland, they call it no. I wonder if that's. I might have just made that up as well. I should probably ask our panel later on from across the
I know
pond.
I've heard it called the John.
The John. That's the thing, right?
I'd say that's a thing. Definitely a thing somewhere in the world.
This is how we start MMA UK Podcast, folks.
I like it. Who doesn't like chat about toilets?
We don't have a fighter in for you this week, so we're talking about toilets and shit. Literally.
Yeah, literally, yeah. And where it goes.
I must say, I enjoy Sunday evenings for a podcast, Steve, because I don't drink much. However, on a Sunday evening when I have one day off, I like to open a cider. And this episode of the podcast is involved with Wildwood Organic Cider, which you can purchase for... I don't know if this is a copyright thing. Are you allowed to say stuff like this? It's not the radio.
Other ciders are available, I believe,
in
all good retail shops.
Okay. Well,
Is that how you get around a copyright? I don't know. It's fine. Someone else will get barred, I'm sure.
Yeah. I should probably check the music as well, that it's all legit. But I'm going to have a wee sip of this. It's nice.
What could go wrong?
Are you a cider man? Do you like cider?
I do. I haven't drank today though. I feel like if this is going to be the way we're going to get sponsors, I should start drinking more.
Yeah, well, definitely. Well, usually it's cake chat we have rather than.
Yeah. Although no, my wife hasn't made a cake today, so I should get onto that, shouldn't I?
So what you're saying is you rely on the baking skills of your other half as opposed to.
I can't bake for shit. Yeah. I think I baked one cake and it just went really wrong, and she had to bail me out on that one. So.
Did you never make those like the Rice Krispies with the chocolate sauce and all that, and like the spoon?
I might have when I was younger, but yeah, no, I'm not a baker.
You never carried that tradition forward. I used to work in a bakery. Well, I was more of an oven attendant than a baker. We just put frozen stuff.
Attendant.
Well, you just take stuff from the freezer, put it in the oven, and then that was it. Sold it. I'm allowed to say the name of the shop. Fuck them. It's Tesco. I hated it. I did it for 7 years. And it was awful. I got really fat working there because what we used to do was make like
one for you, one for me, one for you, one for me.
Well, there was the ratio was slightly more in my favour than what was going for them.
Two for me,
even more. So just keep going. We'd make like pancakes and crumpets and whatever else, but you do like different flavour. Well, I'd say flavours. You would have a huge big bag of dolly mixtures. So you're doing dolly mixture pancakes, I guess. But like you said, it was like a handful for me and a slightly less handful for the punters. And it was the same for chocolate chip chunks and tremendous stuff. Good times.
You could have been a heavyweight. You could have got in there with some of the heavyweights.
Ain't no could about it.
You'd have looked like Tank Abbott.
I would have. Who was it Tank Abbott was fighting? And he said it felt like being molested by Freddie Mercury. Who was that? That was that great quote.
Would it be Don Fry by any chance? Because he looked a lot like Freddie Mercury.
Well, I don't know if it was that. I think it's because he was complaining like the style of fight that he was getting dry humped.
Why? How would Freddie Mercury fight?
I think he would just look to break free.
Wait.
Oh, look at that. Are you a Queen fan? Do you like a bit of Queen?
I do like Queen. I couldn't name many off the top of my head. I'm not very good at naming songs, but I would listen to Queen. It's good music to listen to, I feel. Not necessarily for fighting to.
Oh, come on. We will rock
Another
you.
one bites the dust, actually. And actually, no, I take that statement back straight away.
Is it Roy Nelson? Who comes out to that? We will rock you. We will. That's Queen, isn't it?
Yeah.
Is this terrible?
I take I apologise. I take my statement back. That was a stupid statement to make.
We're getting people unsubscribing to this.
Yeah, I'll take the flag. Sorry.
I'm going on. That was my angry computer nerd Queen fanboy voice. Raw. Steve does a great. Can I put you on the spot, or maybe will we save this for another time?
You can put me on the spot if you like. Might not go well for you.
Steve does a great David Attenborough impression.
Ooh. Is this your way of asking me to do it?
All right, well I set you up. So this is David Attenborough calling an MMA fight.
Oh, you've got me smiling now, like giggling to myself.
Sorry, straight face.
So, as Big John McCarthy starts the fight, the two males circle each other in what could only be described as some form of violent mating ritual. Can we please now observe how this could go wrong for the lesser male in this situation? If you were a female, wouldn't you want to fornicate with them?
Fornicate, what a great word.
That's all I can do. I haven't had enough to drink to keep going on that.
I can do a great Richard Attenborough.
Go on then.
When he was in Jurassic Park and he just points and says, "There." That's it.
That's flawless. Oscar.
Thank you very much. I will accept that Oscar, along with my Wildwood cider. Other ciders are available, apparently.
I think if we're ever going to copyright stuff, just say other things are available, and then surely we can't get sued.
I think that's only an Ofcom thing. Like when you're on radio. Idea. Well, I used to work in radio, and like for example, we were there's a music festival in Scotland called Tea in the Park, but we weren't allowed to say tea in the park because tea stood for Tennent's Lager, so you weren't allowed to mention the beer.
Wow.
So what you had to say was, we're here live at the Scottish Music Festival, rather than, like, if you're from Scotland, as soon as you say tea in the park, everybody knows what it is. I'm assuming it's pretty, like, around the UK, it's probably pretty well known as well. But you weren't allowed to mention you had to do all that nonsense of other beers are available, it's all this Ofcom copyright bullshit, basically. But fun times. Anyway, Steve, probably at this time we've talked enough toilet and Queen and alcohol chat. Let's talk some mixed martial arts. Will we do that, sir?
Oh yeah, you're cracking up a bit though.
That's my blood pressure and or maybe it's Skype. I'm not sure. Probably Skype. Let's see. So we'll bring in a panel at this time, Steve. We have this week of MMA latest, Mr. Gilberto Sanchez and Kevin Jones of the main event. So, gentlemen, thank you very much for giving us your time on the MMA UK podcast, and let's get into some UFC 205. How are we all doing, my friends? Are we all right?
Doing great.
I'm doing great. I got my cold beer right here. I'm ready to roll, baby.
Excellent.
I think I've missed the drinking thing here. I've missed this boat. I feel like I've missed out.
See,
I was ahead of the curve.
Kev knows where it's at. What time is it over there, mate? It's got to be like, 2 or 3 in the afternoon? He's an early starter.
Yeah, 2:45. Beautiful day in West Texas. Perfect day to start drinking some cold Bud Lights.
Bud Lights. What a disappointment. Sorry, I hate Budweiser.
Yeah, I'm out now.
I knew y'all were going to rag on me for that.
You killed the dream.
I don't know. I try to like it because it seems like it's a cool beer to drink, but I just can't touch that stuff. And I used to drink what's the other light stuff? The Coors Light. I ain't bad, but Bud. No, I hate Budweiser. I just can't do it.
It's only the most popular beer in the world. King of beers.
It sounds like working
don't
for
lie.
him. That's it. Well, I suppose so. Right, let's see, guys. So we're going to look ahead to some more fights on this UFC 205 card. And last week was the title fights we were discussing. So this week we'll be looking some more at the other big fights. Let's start in the featherweight division. Mr. Frankie Edgar, he takes on one Jeremy Stephens, and Stephens obviously throwing his name out there for a future title shot against McGregor. It didn't go down too well for him, right enough, at the press conference, but could he be a future title contender after this fight with Frankie Edgar? Who knows? But let's get the panel's thoughts. We'll start with Gilberto on this one. Gilberto, how do you see Edgar versus Stephens playing out, and who do you expect to walk out with the W, sir?
I think this fight is really a big step for Jeremy Stephens. With that said, I think the pressure is really on him. I think he's considered himself a bit of a journeyman because of his losses and all his years fighting with the organization. Mm-hmm. I think he's going to put it all out there, and I think one can argue that we're going to see the best Stephens in this fight. I mean, he knocked out Bermudez just last year with the flying knee, and we've seen Bermudez come back and co-main event in a fight night this past August. So Stephens has shown he's a top contender in the featherweight division, but ultimately I think he's going to have his hands full. I think we're going to see Edgar placing a lot of pressure on him, and I see it going for Edgar.
Edgar for you, sir. And Kevin, same question to you. What's your thoughts on Stephens versus Edgar?
Well, I'll just start out saying I love Jeremy Stephens, man. The little heathen's my dude. But, he's very reckless in there, man. And I think that plays very well into the style that Frankie Edgar fights. Frankie's a very technical fighter. Stand-up's very crisp, very clean. I'm not seeing a book in the world that got him at under 3-1 favorite on here. So, it's looking like it's leaning much towards Frankie Edgar. And because of the things I just said, I think, and we were talking about this on the show today, that there's a pretty big difference between world class and elite. And I would put Frankie Edgar's in that elite level. I would say while Jeremy Stephens is definitely world class, I don't think he's on that elite level. I think it's his record, his win-loss, losing a couple in a row. I think it kind of speaks for itself, man. He's sitting at, 25-12 or something like that. Frankie Edgar only has 5 losses. Edgar's going to take it, and I think it's an easy night work for Edgar if he can avoid the big shots.
And finally, Steve, what do you reckon for Stephens versus Edgar?
I completely agree with things Kevin was saying. Stephens has looked incredible recently. And then what Gilberto said, his knockout of Bermudez was amazing. That's one of the best flying knees you'll see. But with his reckless style and his wild swings, that plays really well into Frankie's wrestling. Frankie's not going to really want to stand still in one place. His footwork's going to keep going and going, and he's just going to put so much pressure on Stephens. It's going to be hard for him to plant and land one big heavy shot. I think his recklessness is going to, like the others said, just leave him open to Frankie's wrestling, his quick, speedy work, and he's probably just going to try and grind Stephens into the ground over the rounds. And I can see him getting a finish maybe on Stephens just by wearing him out.
And I think also the fans will play a part on this. We saw him slightly shook up when the infamous "Who the fuck is that guy?" But with the crowd being so behind Frankie Edgar, I mean that's the boy, and I think it's going to get to Stephens. I see what you're all saying about the style of Edgar looking to grind out, looking to make a wrestling contest, and that would be a smart game plan for him to employ. But I think psychologically, Edgar's got a huge advantage over him, not from his gamesmanship, but from the gamesmanship of the East Coast fans, if you like. Let's move on, guys. We've got Khabib Nurmagomedov. He's taking on one Michael Johnson in the prelims. Nurmagomedov, obviously, this sensational unbeaten run, despite long layoffs with injuries, etc. He takes on a rejuvenated Michael Johnson after that victory over one Dustin Poirier. Let's start with Kevin this time. Kevin, what are your thoughts on this lightweight contest?
It's hard for me to pick against El Cucuy, Tony Ferguson. For those guys not versed in the Spanish language, El Cucuy is kind of like the boogeyman, and I think he's gonna spoil it, man. I think he's there to play upset. I I know the Eagle, and I'll just call him the Eagle. I'm glad you're here, John Boy, to pronounce his name. Because Nurmagomedov, or I'm not good with these Eastern Bloc names. But yeah, man, I mean, he's a tough dude.